looking at a win, an important win, would you not say, Rick, after the start that Mike Norvell was having to endure?
A huge win for Florida State, no doubt about it. They've really struggled as of late in really every phase of the game. So to see what they were able to do and hold on, I mean, that's kind of the untold story is that they held us, held California to only 3 field goals. So that was pretty impressive. Even though they did bend a little bit, they didn't break. And, offensively, that's still the biggest issue for this team. They've put up 12, 13, and 14 points in their last 3 games. So that is something that has got to turn around pretty quickly if Florida State's going to knock off a team that just put up 66 points this past week.
Now, Ray, you watched the game. I mean, was there anybody impressive on either side of the ball that you feel that you're going to need this upcoming weekend against SMU?
Yeah, it was the defensive line. It was their best performance. Joshua Farmer played the way he did a year ago, and Patrick Payton really woke up. He had not played well at all. He had, I think it was 2.5 sacks he was credited with, but he was just ferocious coming off the edge. And then Marvin Jones Jr. really showed up in the last couple of defensive drives. He didn't play well early on, but he had a big-time fourth quarter, and, it was somewhat of a coming-out party for him. He's been basically on a milk cart for more than 3.5 games, but that was good to see. The defensive line really stepped up their play. I thought they were better, Leon, against Memphis. Again, in that game, you had the safety, but they allowed 18 points, and it was a better effort, obviously, than BC and Georgia Tech. But certainly this past Saturday, their performance there against Cal, without any question, the defensive line really rose above everything else.
Yeah, Rick, you and I were talking about that. I mean, those two guys finally played like they should be playing, Peyton and Marvin Jones Jr. The question now becomes can this become a recurring theme? Can they do it this weekend when they're going to need it against a team that can throw the ball, against a team that can stress that Florida State secondary if they don't? That's the question. This is, in years past, you'd think SMU and you think Florida State rolls in there, but that's a team that can throw the ball and that's going to stress them, right?
Yeah, and, it's interesting because you look at Kevin Jennings and what he did. He throws the football. Certainly he's efficient there, but he can run it. So this is another one of those deals where I think it's really a dual-threat quarterback that they're going to have to defend. And if you don't get any pressure, they're going to pick apart that Florida State defensive secondary. Still what is really problematic, Matt, and to me it's the most frustrating part, and it also kind of applies to the Jaguars when we talk about it. When you look at what Josh Allen did, throwing 13 out of the first 16 plays on Monday night, it was the short game. It was in the flats. It was the screen game. Florida State has really struggled this year in that department, just dumping the ball off the backs or running simple bubble screens and things along those lines. Florida State has struggled there. So, how do you contain a team that put up 66 points? That is something they're absolutely going to have to change. If not, this could be another long afternoon for Florida State when it's all said and done.
If you look at FSU, Rick, Dublin and Dallas are the first 2 places they've played this year outside of Tallahassee. They've had the 3-game home stretch, and now they have to get back on the road. How will Mike Norvell treat this one differently in terms of saying, hey, we got to get on the road, we got to make sure that we don't mess this thing up?
We don't know the answer to that question because, the Dublin trip was kind of like a bowl game to them. Even though they lost, they stayed there for the extra day and a half, and they all partied as if they had won. And, now, I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, who does that outside of Florida State?
Yeah.
And now they go to Dallas, which is truly, really their first road game of the year. And, this game was kind of highlighted for one reason. It was the first ACC game for SMU. You welcome them into the conference. I mean, there was one point where that was a formidable university before, they faced the death penalty. But just the assumption was Florida State shows up and they win. Now all of a sudden you look up and they're a 5.5, 6-point underdog. And I think a lot of people think that SMU is going to take Florida State here to the woodshed. The weather's coming. The hurricane's coming. They're expected to be leaving on Friday. Actually, they were going to leave on Thursday, but there's been a little bit of talk that that possibly they could get out of here 12 hours, maybe 16 hours earlier, depending on exactly what does happen as far as the weather. I know Mike Norvell was talking about that earlier today. They're going to check everything, and I guess everyone is basically on call that if they decide to get up and get out again before they are supposed to. So that's not a perfect situation as well. I mean, I guess Leon could attest to this. People who play the game, you're into such a routine, especially when you go out on the road, and if something like that changes at the drop of a dime, and all of a sudden you're leaving a day earlier or a half day earlier, that intangible could be something that's pretty important for them as well.
Now, Rick, if you could check all the boxes come this Saturday when they play SMU, what would you like to see from this team, your Florida State team?
Well, I'd like to see him be a little bit more balanced early on. Take some chances, throw the football downfield. DJU still is very statuesque in the pocket, and they really tried to run the football this past week. Rodell Williams was unable to give it a go. Cam Davis went down real early in the game. He did come back late in the second half, but it was the most that we had seen Toafili until going back to late last year. They really fed him the football, and again, a lot of the stuff was the dinking and the dunking to Morlock and some backs and some shorter stuff, even behind the line of scrimmage, to wide receivers. I think when you're 1-3 and you're an underdog, you got to take some chances here. Look at Malik Benson. He caught 2 balls last week, and they were both behind the line of scrimmage. He ended up with negative yards receiving. But love to see them try to get SMU on their heels a little bit and not on their toes. And I think the only way you're going to be able to do that is by throwing the football. I'm sure SMU right now, when they look at film, they're saying, if we can stop Florida State's rushing attack, we will take our chances against DJU beating us in the air by throwing the football. So will Mike Norvell be aggressive enough to try to counter that early and, really make it a strength for Florida State? I think that's going to be an interesting chess match early on in this football game.
All right, Rick, this question is out there, and it has to be asked, and I don't know why we're not there yet, actually. What is the situation behind DJU? Is it that bad that he doesn't trust any of those guys to go out there and play? Because what he's got right now is just like a caretaker at best. At best. And that, when he does those quarterback run stuff, it's embarrassing to watch him do that. Where are they right now at that position?
My understanding is that's the problem. Froman Hoke is at least a year away, even though I think that there's really a chance there that he ends up being a very good quarterback. Brock Glenn just has not been impressive enough in practice. The whole world wants him to get an opportunity. He's not a good quarterback. He's not the answer. And going to Brock Glenn, I think if there was even a glimmer of hope, because imagine the spark that it would create, certainly during that 3-game homestand, if you brought him in and gave him a chance to see what he would do. He's the crowd favorite, and that's common in college football with the backup quarterback. He's just very erratic. He doesn't have a good arm. The thing he has that DJU does not is escapability. He can leave the pocket, and he can pick up some yards with his feet. You and I saw a couple of practices back here in August. I have not seen him practice since, but with people that I have spoken with, he has done nothing in practice that has proven that he should be ahead of DJU. Mike Norvell's thinking is the best chance for us to win a game is to stay with him as the starting quarterback.
Yeah, it sounds that he isn't saying what is obvious. He's got to stay with DJU because Glenn is not the answer. You'll love, though, Rhett Lashley's quote, and I'm just taking half of it. Last year, DJ was excellent at Oregon State, so it's in there, and it's only a matter of time before it all clicks. So you got that going for you.
Hey, who knows, man? He's got that offense really high octane. Last week, 42 rushes, 19 passes, played everyone on his roster, and this is a huge game for the Mustangs. It's kind of like Memphis 2 weeks ago. Just because Florida State is down, they're not going to look at this like, oh, this is an automatic win. This is a welcome to the Atlantic Coast Conference game. for SMU, and to all those kids, this is still Florida State. So
They'll storm the
I think
field
Florida
if they win.
State,
I
I
guarantee
think
they
Florida
will.
State. Yeah, I think Florida State has a real good chance to play hard here and possibly pull off the upset, but SMU's not going to lay down.
Hey guys, Taylor Dahl here. Thanks so much for checking out 1010XL Seminoles page. If you're looking for more college football content, you can head over to the Gators page, or if you want some professional football content, check out our 1010XL Jaguars page.